So this is the current state of the headlights. They're not terribly bad, but they're definitely foggy and hazy. So I'm parked in the shade, so that way I don't get too much sun on me. And I'm just going to start sanding these and hopefully restore them to look like brand new. Maybe I'll insert an image of what the final headlight will look like around here. And I just want to give a couple of angles of how it currently looks as of now. I'm going to do both headlights, but I'll focus the video on this headlight. So I think this is everything that I'll need to be able to do this. I'm going to wear the dust mask as I'm sanding, but first I'm going to use the tape and tape around the headlight so I don't accidentally sand painted surfaces around the headlight. I'll start with the 320 using the foam sponge, applying light pressure and spraying water because it'll be a wet sand. Once I'm done with that, I'll move up to the 600 and then the 2000 grit. Once I'm done all that, I'll clean the surface using the rubbing alcohol, and then I'll tape a bag over the area, cutting a hole and retaping around that before I finally apply the clear coat. It's clear gloss, meant for plastic, and it's non-yellowing and UV resistant, so that'll be good. Once I'm done all that, I'll just wax the headlight with car wax, just like I was, waxing the car, because that's like a clear coat or a top coat. So I just taped up the headlight in the car. Before I start with the sanding, I'm just going to use some water, spray the thing down, and then wipe it with a cloth to try to remove any sort of debris or loose material before I start sanding. So we're going to start sanding now, and what we're going to do is get the headlight nice and wet. Can't use too much water. I'm also going to start with the 320 sandpaper and get that surface nice and wet. I'm going to wrap it in the sanding block and then just start sanding. And I'll do this better off camera, but basically wrap it nice and tight, start sanding, and between sanding I'm going to use my other hand that's holding the camera to keep spraying the headlight with more water to keep it well lubricated while sanding. So I'm going to sand all over in different directions, make sure to get all the corners and edges, and when I finish, I'm going to finish by doing a horizontal sand so that way if there's any scratches they'll be horizontal. I'm now going to repeat the process with the 600 grit sandpaper in the exact same fashion. I already did the driver and passenger headlight. You can kind of see some of the milky residue that's sort of come up. But before I do any more sanding, I'm always keeping the surface nice and wet. And I'll wet that stuff as well down there. And then just keep sanding in a horizontal orientation. So this is what the headlight looks now. You can see it's got this white residue paste all over it. I'm going to spray it down with some water. And once I coat it all really well with water, I'm going to wipe it with a clean cloth, lint-free, to try to remove as much of that white goop as possible. And then I'm going to use a 2000 grit sandpaper, wrap it up nice and tight, spray some water on this, spray some water on this, and continue to wet sand with the 2000 grit in a horizontal orientation. So next thing I'm going to do is wet it one more time with the water. Once it's completely wet, I'm going to wipe it dry, completely dry with a paper towel. Then I'm going to apply our isopropyl alcohol to clean the surface, and using a fresh paper towel wipe that stuff dry as well. So I've cut open my garbage bag, so now it's one giant sheet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drape it over the headlight, cover as much of the area as I possibly can, and tape it down in place with the tape. I'm then going to make a small hole where the headlight is, and then tape around the hole that I make to just expose the headlight. So I've taped off the area with my garbage bag, and then I cut a hole, put tape around that so it's a nice tight hole right there. So I had this giant roll of paper, so I figured I might as well use it rather than getting more garbage bag material. And so that's how I did like the rest of the car in the front and around this headlight here. I sort of regret doing it that way because the paper just rips and it's a little bit more difficult, but it still works and it's still fine. But in retrospect, I probably would have just used more garbage bags just to tape over the hood. So I'm literally gonna take this clean paper towel, cover it up just like that, kind of do one of these, get it a little bit more wet, and then just start cleaning off the surface of the headlight. It's now time to spray the clear coat. I've cleaned the headlights with the isopropyl alcohol a second time. When I paint, I'll paint every 5 to 10 minutes. I'll paint between coats. I'll paint a total of 3 coats. And when I start spraying, I'll spray off, on, and then off completely. But light coats with a slight overlap, and make sure I cover all the way around the perimeter. I just applied the first coat very lightly, not even full coverage, because I want to avoid it running as best as I can. Definitely when I applied it, it cleared up any haze that was on it remaining and some light scratches that I saw on the surface. I'm just hoping that this will cover all of that and make it look nice and clean. So far, so good. I'm now just waiting to apply the second coat. Probably wait another 5 to 10 minutes. So I just sprayed the second coat of clear. I'm waiting to apply the third, and I already see a blemish and a mistake I made right there. I don't know if it will show up on camera, but there's a little bit of a run right here, and definitely because I sprayed too close and too much on, I believe, my first coat. So I can't stress how important it was, and I didn't even follow my own instructions to apply very light, thin, and get coverage with multiple coats rather than any heavy coats. So maybe when I wet sand this at the very end, that'll file down that run, hopefully, along with some peeling that I see up here, probably because of the sun, I assume. So anyways, we'll just wait now another 10 minutes or so, and then apply our final coat, and then wait 24 hours before we remove all of the covering. So these are the final results of the headlights. Would I say that I did a great job? No. Is it perfect? No. Did I learn some stuff? Yes. First and foremost, even though I was told not to apply it heavy or deep, apply it light and do multiple coats, I still got a paint run right there. Also, it kind of looks like there's like, you know, some bubbling or whatever in the paint. I don't know if it can be seen. Plus it still looks a little hazy. I don't know why that is. Good from far, but far from good. But at least it's better than it was prior to starting. I spent $10 on clear gloss paint. I also already had the rubbing alcohol and the sandpaper, so it really didn't cost me anything. But I would imagine it would have been about another $30 or $40. Anyway, my now total investment in this vehicle is $969.